we go. So it's a couple of days to the end of this administration, and about 28 governorship candidates in the 2023 elections are going to be sworn in in a couple of days, a couple of weeks rather. Those 28, 18 of them are first-time governors, as in they've never tasted that office, and they're coming in. What are they going to meet on ground? What are they going to do when they come in? Well, who's preparing them? Are they even prepared for what they are coming in there to do? Well, so before they take their oath of office, I think some people are looking at how to coach them, guide them, advise them. Well, anyway, Head of Media and Public Affairs, Nigeria Governors Forum Secretariat, Abdul Razak Bello Barkindo is in our studio, and he'll tell us what it's like working. Let me start off real quick and ask you this question. You're not a governor, but you have to deal with 36 human beings who are considered first citizens in their state. What's it like working with them?
Well, hectic, I must say, because the chairman is only first among equals. And each governor would obviously have requests that would require the Secretariat working honestly and assiduously to ensure that that request is, taken up and finished clinically by the Secretariat, which, the leadership has been able to accomplish creditably too. And
when people hear of the Governors Forum, it's assumed that what they do, they gather once in a while to have conversations. The Secretariat being there will mean they document these conversations. Are there things like peer review sessions where they hold themselves accountable, where they say, hey, you haven't built that road, the other one you started, you're not done with it, you're not governing your people? Do they do that amongst themselves?
First of all, I must clear this impression that a lot of people have about the Nigeria Governors Forum. I remember when Chamberlain came to our office the first time, he said, oh, Barkindo, I thought you guys lived in a two-bedroom house. No, we're an institution. We're a policy hub. We do not have the right or mandate to hold governors accountable because they are our principals. They put us there.
Do they hold themselves accountable, not the...
I think that would be an unfair shot, because they are not supposed to hold themselves accountable. The people are supposed to hold them accountable. Or, on the other hand, the legislature, which is the other pillar of our democratic process, should hold them accountable. But, there is a certain absence here and there. But for the governors, I think together, for the mere fact that they have, jettisoned, their partisanship and come in under one forum as a group, they've been able to, if not hold each other accountable, at least share experiences and see how they can help one another move their states forward. And I think that's a good thing for them.
Okay, so now you have 28 governors that are going to be coming into the next, by May 29, 18 of them greenhorns. What's the plan?
This is how I see it. There is no greenhorn coming into governance in Nigeria. I would say most of the governors are the best of us in our societies. We have legal luminaries, we have medical doctors, we have engineers, we have accomplished businessmen in office. The thing is, campaign is different from governance, and that's why we're having an induction for all of them. You need to be able to disrobe yourself of that toga of campaigning and getting people to, and begin to see governance as an opportunity to make a mark, help your people, and ensure that history sees you in a positive light. Unfortunately, there are some, for me, I wouldn't pinpoint who or who is where. But I know that a lot of governors are doing their best, putting in their best, and the 18 that are coming are probably going to do much better than the previous ones, because they say experience is the best teacher. If you had been understudying your friend or whoever assisted you to become a governor, you would have known where the loopholes or where the shoe pinches. And you should be able to, tread very, very carefully to move things forward. But of course, there are people who just assume that they can be governor for being governor's sake, and their footprints show. But most of them are doing well, I would think. Mm.
Well, let me take it up from... Sorry, would you kindly move the glass forward? I'm just... Thank you. Okay. Been a bit worried about it. I am looking at the first 100 days. I do know that oftentimes there is usually some emphasis on the first 100 days, something that we've now copied from the American system of government in terms of how they hold their own leaders accountable. What are some of the things that you think we should be seeing in somebody, especially a governor, who is serious? I think we have lots of proverbs that says things like morning tells the day, you know how somebody will do from this. Lots of proverbs, buttressing the fact that you would immediately tell when somebody means business in his or her state. Well, it's only his state, there's no her, sadly. What are some of the things, what are some of the markers that you're looking to impress upon the governors as they come in for some of them for their first term, or even some of them to say, oh, this is some of the areas where you possibly did not do well, or some of the mistakes you might... I don't know if that happens though. Do you do that?
Yes, it does.
Mistakes that people have made and maybe they could look to correct. Did they ever acknowledge that there have been mistakes?
Yes, they do. And I think whoever created the first 100 days in office would have done democracy a big favor, because it's one landmark that all politicians look forward to. And by the first 100 days, each state or each governor would be glad to say, this is where I am. But for me, or for the Nigeria Governors Forum as a platform, you know immediately if in the first 100 days the governor has been able to, assemble a team, because that's one of the themes also at the convention, the induction. One of them is, you would maybe agree with me that Nasir El-Rufai, the governor of Kaduna State, has been able to assemble his kind of team that has been able to work with him. And if you go to Kaduna today, you would see that there is a great transformation from the old Kaduna that he used to be into the new one that he's going to leave behind. And that is because, if you are able to put together the right team, your movement would be seamless. People will begin to acknowledge that, what you're doing is right. You would have seen in the, previous administrations where it took time to assemble a cabinet and everybody was thinking, oh, the cabinet was going to come from outer space. And by the time the cabinet was put together in 2015, you could see that a lot of people despaired. A lot of people thought, what was on ground was not what they expected. So the expectations for first 100 days is justified, I would say. And for most people, it is the first, handing over, mark that you need to exhibit what you can do. And usually, they seek advice or begin to seek advice when things begin to go wrong, or, some are applauded when things are right. So I think the onus of looking at governors is not on governors themselves, it's not on the forum, the Nigeria Governors Forum, but I think it's specifically on the people. I've always said Nigerians must begin to reclaim their country. We must begin to ask questions about what happens, because people are becoming more and more aware today. And when policies go wrong, they immediately, know where to check.
Interestingly, you're not inducting the Nigerian people. It is the governors you've chosen to induct. And I'm sure there's reason for that. Hopefully, part of the things you're also looking to do is perhaps imbue capacity. Part of what I'm sure the Nigeria Governors Forum exists for is to also help strengthen capacity in the areas where they're lacking. So what are some of the areas that over time you've noticed that, quite a number of states struggle, and their governors as well, and some of the areas where you can say that the Nigeria Governors Forum has been able to help strengthen capacity, and perhaps we'll be looking forward to engaging more in those areas than it's previously done?
Yes, I think, Maope, you've hit on the word. It's capacity. A lot of people think that when governors or governments, bring infrastructure, roads, housing, water and electricity, they are doing well. I think that is statutory. One of the areas where I think most governors do not see that they need to improve is in human capital development. We have an office, a section of our office, which is the human capital development part of this government. And it has had problems even getting the attention of the people in leadership. That's probably because that does not, actually function in Naira and Kobo. A lot of people do not see the need. And that's why I would say maybe the last election had the kind of turmoil it did. Because a lot of people have become so aware of their environment and their politics that they react to things in a very constructive and forceful way. And unless, the people coming in begin to look at this country as a country of humans, not a country of vehicles and utilities, I think the better for us.
But would that be easy to do if they do not have a picture of where they're going to, like vision? Riding on the back of that question about capacity, in that induction, would there be room to, say, fine-tune their vision or help them to fine-tune whatever picture they have or where they want to take their state to? And how would that even work out?
That's where our state's peer review mechanism becomes relevant. When governors come together and begin to see that one governor is doing well, one of our duties is to, ask him to replicate what has happened, especially if they come from the same geopolitical zone, which means the social and economic, circumstances would also respond equally. On the other hand, there are people who come with their own vision of what their people think they need to do and things like that. And these ones, would have to be left to do the things that they think are right. Because as principals, we don't force you to do what we recommend. We only advise. Our role is advisory. And if you decide not to take those advices, who are we to say, you must? But I'm happy to say that, the NGF has been able to, galvanize that kind of attention that not only governors, in the last 1 year or the last 2 years, I would say more than 50 serious, responsible institutions of this country have come to the Governors Forum to say, please, help us with this or help us with that. And that is because they have seen the impact that we have been making on governors themselves. And the governors have been able to cooperate and, assimilate whatever advices we give, which means we are all thinking in the same, way. And that's, for me, is progress.
Staying on that particular matter of peer review and development, what many Nigerians and indeed residents of different states will want to see is beyond the road constructions. Yet the roads are good, providing the different infrastructure is good, but they'll want to see a governor or first citizen who is relating and communicating with them, connecting with them. I'm not lived too long on this earth, but I know that there was a time in this country where the different regions would look at each other and say, okay, in the southeast, this is happening. We can do this here. We can. How much of that are we likely to see going from the things you said are going to happen during this inauguration? Would we see more of this happening?
Yes.
Induction. Would we see more of this coming together? There was a time Lagos and Kebbi came together to farm rice. Would we see, especially seeing that now the Constitution has been amended, there's room for states to generate and distribute said electricity. There's also the part of railway. Do you think the governors, these incoming governors, will be thinking in that direction? And how would the forum help them to further their thinking in that direction?
Yes, I think picking from, what I said only a few minutes ago, the quality of governance has been growing. And the vision of the people who are becoming governors have been expanding. I think, going by what you think, if the governors are going to come together and do something good, I think it's a social responsibility, and now it is becoming a social force. I don't think anybody wants to be a governor just for being a governor, because the pressure is good. If you asked me, I would say when people become governors, they should not have friends. Because maybe their friends are the kind of people who influence them to do negative things, because people come with good intentions for their people. And you would notice that people who are friends with people in government probably become enriched, even if the governor is not enriched by himself. And the general population now begins to see closeness to people in power as an advantage, which shouldn't be the case. But I think by the force of the social movement that we have in this country today, as we see, it's not likely that anybody would sit in that office and not want to make an impact one way or another on his people, on the, demands or facilities that they need, on the resources of the, or on even revenue generation, which is, also one of the things that the NGF helps them to do. So by and by, I think a lot of sensible and forward-looking people are coming into governance, and I've checked the, bios of all the 18 that are coming into governance newly. And I see that also from the choice of people we are asking to come and speak to them, there is a kind of desire, to make governance, move in the right direction in this country. And that is for all of us, not just the governors.
What are you hoping this induction will achieve? I know you've spoken about getting rid of the campaign mindset to, looking at governance. What are some of the things that the NGF is hoping that this will achieve?
The first thing is that the NGF provides a platform. That platform also revolves around its convening power. And usually whenever governors come and see how the debates, because the debates have also improved, I would say geometrically, because today nobody comes to the NGF to discuss his party or, what is happening in, they lose all forms of partisanship. That alone means that they want to learn from each other. I agree that there are sometimes very tempestuous arguments between governors or between, well, if you ask me, the manifestos of both parties are the same. So they seem to pursue the same agenda.
I'm sure that the parties would disagree with you.
Of course they would, but I'm not a politician, But generally, if you look at the kind of debates they have, they debate only things that are meaningful and would, further the interests of the people more than, other primordial things that come up. So I think, in general, the platform provides for them something to work with.
But that wasn't what I asked. I was asking what you're hoping that the induction will achieve when it's over.
Well, the induction can only achieve good governance. And because of the kind of personalities that we are asking to come and speak to them, I think the takeaway is that, there are other ways of doing things than what I had conceived or what I had preconceived would be, my agenda. And I would still rely on the choice of people, people that I know have, remarkable footsteps in different sectors of, running their own states. We have two governors from the United States of America, one from Maryland, another from Virginia. One was, renowned for improving healthcare facilities and, education, the other for security. And as a matter of fact, one of the key people we had invited who would not be able to come because of the stormy situation in his, city, that's New York City, the mayor of New York, who's first time a black man has been a mayor, and who has records of even digitalizing, crime fighting in New York City. And we had thought that by him coming to speak to governors, that would be, as a matter of fact, we had arranged that he would also meet, someone who is not the governor, the, minister of the FCT, which would have opened up, the conversation around how to digitally fight crime in this country. And, well, thankfully, he's going to, be with us virtually, which would also help embellish, the induction. But I believe strongly that the induction is necessary. It's a very big event for the NGF. It's also a very big event for anybody coming into governance, because you listen to, very, very serious and achieving people. And for all I care, when you look at it, the benefits are enormous for governors.
Mr. Barkindo,
Yes, sir.
we're winding down. And if you have a word of advice for the Nigerian citizens who are living in these different states, you who's having to more like curate the affairs of the governors, their #1 citizens, what would you be telling them, especially as some of these states, 18 states, will receive new governors and probably would have met a couple of either pitfalls or bumps on the way, waiting for them in the offices? What would you be telling the citizens in those states?
I would borrow from Austin, who just left the studio. Keep the people involved. That's the most important thing. If the people are involved, you will get serious feedbacks, not from lackeys and hangers-on, but from the society itself. Because if you go to advanced countries, you share a bus with probably the governor of a state or the mayor of a city and things like that. And there are direct contacts. You can see people who need your services, and you can see that, what your friends have been telling you behind those closed curtains do not reflect the situation on ground. So if you keep the people involved, you'll know where to go.